think you're on mute. I can't hear you at all. Can anybody hear me?
Hey, yep, I can. Yeah, I cannot hear.
Testing. Can you hear me
Adrian.
now?
Yep, I can hear it.
Okay, good. Yeah, so it's not me then. Hey, Khalil.
Oh, good. Making sure it was working. I was like, I saw your email come in. I saw your Slack, and I was like, let me just jump in to make sure this is going on.
Well, no, the meeting's open. I just had to sit there and wait for the meeting to open.
Got it. No, I'm going to assign you to host. It won't let me assign hosts while the meeting's going on, apparently, right now. So I'll fix it after this meeting.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much.
Cool, cool. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. Adrian, you up?
I'm here now. I can hear you.
All right,
Hopefully
good,
you can
good.
hear me.
Yep. I can hear you. I can hear you now. All right, good deal. Let's get this meeting link posted in the meeting doc. I got it. Boom. Bam. All right, so that's our agenda doc, meeting doc, agenda doc. Good to go.
Want me to share screen or?
Yep, I'll do that too. We'll give people a few more minutes to join.
Yep, while we wait for more people to join, I'm gonna take the time to introduce myself. Alexandre Castro from Brazil. Most people just call me Alex because it's way easier, and I've been involved in open source communities for a while now, and I've been participating a lot in the tag contributor strategy from Cloud Native Computing Foundation and other working groups from the Linux Foundation. And now I'm looking for other working groups where I can provide some insights and get some insights on how to help communities grow and whatnot. So I'll be following along and learning.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for joining us. I heard you say you're from CNCF, but what is your company?
It's NICAS. I'm not from CNCF.
Okay.
I participate in like the tags and working groups, but as not as like the CNCF employee or whatever. So.
Great, thank you. And I see we have I'm not sure I'm gonna pronounce it right. Residi. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Rusdi, and I'm from Indonesia. I work as a software engineer, and it's my first time to join. And yeah, I hope I can learn a lot.
Oh, well, welcome.
We're
happy to have you.
Yeah. Okay, so Alexander was just on the call with me on the salsa positioning meeting call. So you get a chance to see another framework that's being worked on under the supply chain integrity working group. Now you get to see this one as well. The more of these meetings that you attend, the more the same faces that you'll tend to see throughout all of this stuff, because we're doing a whole bunch of work, and we got a whole bunch of work going on, and we're extremely passionate about it. And so thank you for joining, and thank you for any contributions you make in advance.
Thank you for being so nice, and yeah, I look forward to collaborating and yeah, participating a lot more.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
All right, good deal. We'll start with asking for a scribe who's going. Somebody's typing in there. Who's willing to scribe for us?
I can do that. I got myself down here, but if anybody else wants to throw in their name,
Nice.
Feel free.
Yeah, and all are welcome to write stuff in as we go along as well. So we'll do that as well. Okay, we're at about 11 past, so we'll dive right in. We just have a few agenda items on this call today, and usually we have a lot more people, but we understand this is the first meeting of the year. So once this meeting kicks off and these notes get out, then of course more people will attend and come back, and then we'll be able to keep marching forward. You see the agenda items there. We'll talk about the submission to RSA, and of course, Adrian getting ready to go ahead and kick that off. We did some spec reformatting. We have going down the line. We have the S2C2F strategy that we want to review. We did some spec reformatting reformatting to a modern spec, right? So that when it comes time to do any submittals or anything like that, the spec is in the proper format for those submissions. We have a presentation that we're going to be given to CISA at some point over the next couple of months before RSA, which is really good. And then we'll open it up for any topics. So before we begin there, are there any questions? And questions mainly from Alexander or Russity, because Adrian, Jasmine, and I we go at this pretty much all week long. So do we have any questions from you both before we continue?
All good from my side.
Yes, me too.
Cool.
Excellent.
And,
So we'll jump right in.
Yeah, and hopefully you already have this, but I'll just drop the link to our repo. And yeah, let's get started. So yeah, let me start with this one first. So I'm really excited that the RSA accepted they did a call for presentations, and I submitted to introduce S2C2F. And I wrote like a really long write-up and everything. And I just found out, just at the end of last week that they accepted it. So I've already got plane tickets and hotel booked. And the funny news is I had to submit to RSA so long ago that the S2C2F wasn't called the S2C2F back then. It was our previous name, which was the OSS Secure Supply Chain Framework. And so now I got assigned a manager, and so I'm emailing with that person to check with RSA if I could respectfully change the name of the title of the session so that it represents the new name of this framework rather than the old name. And so, that'll be great. It'll be great representation for OpenSSF there, and it'll be great to spread awareness about this framework that any team, any organization can adopt to improve how they securely consume dependencies into the development workflow. So other than that, I think the RSA session is going to be on the 26th of April, which is a Wednesday. It's going to be at 8:30 a.m. It's going to be a 50-minute session. So now I got to be my own scribe here and write all that down.
While he's writing that down, I'll skip ahead to the CISA primer. So while Adrian's working on that 50-minute presentation, we have the opportunity to give a 10-minute presentation to CISA before RSA. So that'll be an excellent opportunity to give them a high level overview of what we'll be talking about at RSA, right? So it's actually perfect timing. And they're wanting this presentation to look at potential areas to adopt which is always a great thing because that's what we need. We need adopters and people who are going to sign on to contribute, but then also to bring internally and adopt, and let's see if it works, and let's work out the kinks and the bugs and all that kind of stuff. So this is a great time for this spec, and a great time for all the stuff that we're working on, really, because it's getting noticed in the government, and we have the opportunity to be impactful that way. We also have stuff that we're working on, and that's not in the notes. I know Adrian's working on stuff with the NSA as well. I didn't even know if we wanted to put that out now, or if we want to wait a little bit before we put that down.
Yeah, we'll just put a placeholder here that we are engaged and working with NSA Enduring Security Framework to have it be referenced in their upcoming publication. It's already been like added into the draft docs. So, you know, I'm very confident that when the final thing has been published, that it'll be included in there. Which is very similar to what the NSA did with some of their other frameworks. Let me see if I can share. Here's like the page, and here's all the different things that they've published. You can see the publication date, and so they're going to be publishing one that's dedicated to securing how you consume open source dependencies, and that's exactly where S2C2F is going to be. And it also has like SBOM guidance in there as well. So that's going to be one of the new upcoming things that they're going to publish, and it'll be here for download eventually. I'll drop this link into the meeting notes. All right, and Jasmine, would you like to walk us through some of the updates that we're making to our S2C2F strategy? It's kind of like a living document, and you know, we could just kind of share what we've been doing.
Yeah, sure. Do you mind, or do you want to share that page?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
So let me just start from the top. Since we have some new audience here, we kind of got like the high level about, you know, hey, this was contributed on October 4th. And, you know, this is what we're here to do is, you know, protect how developers consume open source. And there's so much going on across the OpenSSF that we need to outline a strategy, like where and how do we collaborate and integrate with all the other parts of OpenSSF. So it's important to note that like our goals are awareness, community engagement, adoption, and drive tooling innovation. So, you know, we're actually really happy to see you both here as newcomers too, because like that's like proof in the pudding that we're growing the community engagement already. Please tell your friends and family to dial in next time. Okay, and with that, Jasmine, you want to tell me where I should scroll to?
Yep. So this section, Adrian had started these opportunities for collaboration. But for the past few days, I've kind of been taking these working groups and other kinds of groups that he had linked and kind of combing through their strategies and like what direction they're going in that's usually all listed in their GitHub repos. So if you scroll down a little bit, I think, yeah, most of the stuff are like suggestions by me, but a lot of it is more so about the awareness aspect of the above, where we have opportunities to integrate either the S2C2F itself or like pieces of the S2C2F into other people's initiatives, and just, you know, getting the word out there that we are a resource that should be leveraged and we have valuable information. And if you scroll down more, this plan section, as you can see, again, a lot of it falls under awareness, but basically kind of mentioning the opportunities I have listed up above, and then just making that into a list of who we should be reaching out to and why. But this is still a work in progress. So
Yeah, this is perfect.
This
Go ahead.
provides an excellent opportunity for us to go into each working group and really, you know, nail down, hey guys, this is what we've identified where we can actually be helpful, or where we need help from this particular working group to fill gaps and solve some problems. And this document does it all in one. And that's why this is so exciting. This document's exciting itself. Provides a scenario where we can just pull from, ask to. I have information for that Fresca part too.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
I'll write that stuff in.
Excellent. Yeah. Just an update. So like, while this document is us kind of like outlining, here's the whole landscape of OpenSSF, specifically the pieces where we feel that there's like synergy for an opportunity for us to like work together and partner on something. We've already started to reach out. So getting S2C2F embedded into the security knowledge framework, I've reached out to Randall over here, and he indicated that he is the person to help us get integrated with this. And so I'm awaiting to hear back from him, and he's, you know, excited to partner with us here. I've also reached out to end users working group, as well as the security tooling working group. I don't have direct contacts yet, and I think that's what I need to really like follow up and get traction and start pursuing something here. And so you know, the S2C2F itself, when you look at our implementation guide in our repo, we recommend security tools that help people implement the requirements. But the OpenSSF has this whole guide to security tools section. And so, you know, I think there's some opportunity for us to contribute to their guide to kind of beef it up a little bit for some of the areas that we care about, like tools that improve how fast you can patch your open source vulnerabilities. Right? These are tools like Dependabot, which is like automated PR generation. And I think it's called on GitHub, I think it's called like Dependency Insights. Regardless, there's a couple different tools out there that show you an open source vulnerability as a comment in a pull request, so that you can actually address the vulnerability before everything gets checked in and merged to main. In its technologies like those that help developers stay patched faster, which reduces the window of opportunity for attackers. It allows us to patch faster than the adversary can operate, and that's the goal. And so I want to start implementing some of our tools in here in this guide. So we've reached out, and we're getting the ball rolling. But Alexander or Resity, are you involved in any other working group or SIG that might be on this list?
So I'm taking a look here. There might be some that can probably add some value or collaborate to reach to other groups, if not directly. So yeah, I'm taking a look here now and we'll follow up if I find that any of those that I participate can help.
Okay. Great, thank you.
So this is only for the OpenSSF or?
At this time, we're looking for ways that we can, get plugged into the other parts of the OpenSSF so that we're not just working in a silo. I'm sure there's definitely opportunities outside of the OpenSSF. If please let me know, because that would help, drive adoption and increase awareness. So if there's like the awareness section, let's see here. We're also presenting at RSA 2023. Oh, that's already here. Thank you. This would be inclusion within the NSA during security framework. Right, so these are all ways that we can raise awareness, and by raising awareness, we can drive adoption. Did you have some other like non-OpenSSF ideas?
Yeah, so I'll have to take some time to think, but there are some opportunities for collaborating with other organizations that other open source organizations that work on decentralized and distributed technologies and systems and best practices and whatnot. And maybe a good thing to check with some of those organizations to see if they have anything that's interesting. So I'll check
Okay.
that and I'll contact you or just come back with in the next meeting to.
Oh yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah. And if you're involved in the CNCF, there might be so the S2C2F is advertised as a consumption focused framework that pairs well with any producer focused framework. And I know that the CNCF has their own secure supply chain guidebook. And so I wonder how much this might pair well with that, or if there's like opportunities for us to, improve how this is represented in, cloud native world. Those are all topics that are worth exploring. Right. Let me jump back to the this. So Jay, you already mentioned the spec reformatting.
Oh, yep.
We reviewed the updates to the strategy, talked about the upcoming RSA talk. That's going to be fun. And yeah, I think we kind of covered all of this. Any Any other topics? Any questions while we have you? Got a small meeting today.
Yep, nothing to add. Just look for the reformatted spec to show up on the issue and pull request and all that prior to it being merged and everything else. We'll do that here in the next week or so. It was a lot easier to do a lot of this, to try to do it in Markdown. We had one hell of a time trying to do this in Markdown. So we pulled it and did it in Word. So it'll be updated as soon as we finish fixing and everything else. We'll get it switched back over to Markdown. It was just it was incredibly time consuming to try to work it out in Markdown.
Yeah, and like to collaborate with one another. That was really difficult. Like Word just has like track changes, you can add comments, all that stuff. So it's a lot easier. I agree. Cool. Hey, Randall's here. Your ears must have been burning.
No, I was actually there's 2 meetings. So I was bouncing between meetings and then I got distracted.
Well, hey, I wanted to follow up because, you and I had chatted not too long ago, and, this is our strategy doc for how the S2C2F can kind of plug in with all the different parts of the OpenSSF. And I've got you listed here for the security knowledge framework.
Yep.
So,
and I also have a little bit of gossip and drama if you guys want to hear about it, because you guys were kind of indirectly mentioned.
okay.
So
yeah.
So there is a strong opinion. Homebrew is one of these groups that is of the strong opinion that certain things are being said about our security that like are very tone deaf. And I'm trying to resolve the problem. However, like it's gotten to the point where my right privileges to homebrew are currently restricted.
Oh no.
Wow.
Because the word strong arm has been used, and yeah, it's gotten like Crow calls it like it's really a shame when people start using open source as a religion. But in reality, that's kind of what's happened. And specifically, this framework was one of the things that was mentioned as to why OpenSSF just doesn't get it. So yeah, I just thought that would be an interesting piece of gossip. But yeah.
When you say this framework, are you talking about the security knowledge framework?
Well, no, I'm saying about because security knowledge framework is not really, it's a lot smaller. I mean, basically Salsa, Fresca, your framework. I keep forgetting the acronyms, but those things, the way Homebrew feels about it is it feels like it's not necessary, and we've done it for years without it. And it's a lot of cruft, and a lot of things like this have already been tried and we know why they fail. And it's kind of like for Microsoft to go out and like donate this framework and start saying things like this needs to happen in the supply chain are just not welcome in places like Homebrew, apparently.
Oh wow.
It's not welcomed in a lot of places, and that's what we're trying to fix. That's the whole reputation. We're trying to fix that every single day, and it's man, I gotta say it's I don't want to use the word sickening, but
an uphill battle.
Well, I mean, when you consider that other frameworks and other things get readily accepted But the minute they hear about something like this and Microsoft, now all of a sudden it's like a cross symbol gets put up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's getting to be really, really weird. But you know what?
And here's the thing: they want you to come with money. It's not just a matter of like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a terrible idea. It's how dare you propose this idea and you guys don't even like have money to like fund it. And it's like, so you want to go out and just like fix every packaging ecosystem? Is that what, like, with money? Because that would be very expensive and probably not feasible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We have the power to change that, and we're gonna do it. One person at a time. That's why we brought it to the OpenSSF. That's why it's, we're positioning it in such a way where we're like, hey, we can do all of these things together.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as people like you, Randall, and then as long as we beat the drum and
Yep.
continue to beat the drum, we'll be all right.
And you gotta fight those fires with like absolutely nothing, because like the more you feed into it, the worse it gets. So I was like, exactly what you said. Like, I'm pretty sure no one's trying to strong arm anyone. It's really a matter of, if you're interested in the security of your users, maybe you participate, because it is an open forum.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
That's exactly the argument. It's like, it's simple. It's like, hey, well, we meet Tuesday at 12. You're welcome. Come and join the meeting. Read the spec, join the meeting, find a gap, submit an issue. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What are we talking about?
Just so you guys could laugh, I actually had to go to Emily and ask Emily to like invite the project leader of Homebrew and some of the other people, but to like the virtual maintainer summit.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, no more like, wow, Randall, you really waste your time, to like, maybe we're gonna have to show up.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
But it was actually, I just thought it was good feedback, Adrian. Now let me say this. I've actually done a little bit of talking, and I do think there's an opportunity here, because there is also groups working on something that they're calling next gen packaging, which is flat pack and snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that all of that should be addressed, because I think that there's different package managers with different focuses. And I do appreciate what Flatpak is doing, and I hope it goes their way. And I know that that's where the money is in Linux right now, because that's what Steam Deck uses. But I think, come again?
No, I just got excited because that's what Steam Deck uses.
Yeah, it's actually very, very interesting, because so basically Flatpak is the ideology of like, what happens if everyone puts their differences aside and we create an app store, like a community app store where you can download things and it's properly sandboxed in its own little sandbox environment, kind of like Dino versus JS, kind of that sort of ideology. And I mean, it's actually a decent idea. Now, can it be implemented? That remains to be seen, because you see a lot of people would have to cooperate to make that happen. But I do feel like to some degree it's worth talking about, because security is one of those things these group, or at least Flatpak, likes to talk about as something like they're solving. And I think they're solving it, but from a different perspective, because then you have package managers like Homebrew that are like, we're no security. And by the way, here's another funny one, just also for your information. So Homebrew feels confident that their licensing would essentially exclude them from having to worry about security. So in other words, like, I'm sure as people on this phone call might know, if as a package manager, if you are distributing software, you're still technically considered a vendor to some degree. Mm-hmm. According to Homebrew, their licenses would basically exclude them from all consideration.
Wait, what?
That I thought, I don't know the legalities on that. But Homebrew's underneath GitHub's, and GitHub's underneath Microsoft. So I don't know. I just thought I'd put that out there, because I thought that just doesn't seem like the right perspective, but I could be wrong. But yeah. That's
Interesting.
and that came from the project leader. I'm not going to start naming names, but yeah, basically it came from high up as you can get from Homebrew. The point of view there is that their licensing would exclude them from having to do any of this work in their ecosystem, and they don't want to be included in this.
Oh,
Basically,
you know what? So that's because they're not paying attention to new law written. They're not paying attention to the Cyber Resiliency Act. They're not paying attention to anything going on in the government where they're now talking about.
I have something for you, Jay. So again, this coming from high up, when I brought this up, he started putting in caps, not my government, not my government, not my government. So yes.
Oh, see, they're not reading the tea leaves here. They're not reading the tea leaves. They're starting to now write legislation in random places about who's liable for what when it comes to packages, builds, and everything else. And it's getting crazy too, because now you're trying to figure out, well, if you build something and let's say you build it for somebody else and then they go ahead and repackage it and sell it, you know how it goes. Some companies are just taking open source components and open source packages. They're taking them into their organizations, turning around, repackaging them, and then sending them back out under different names. Who's liable for that?
Yep. Yeah, and
Right?
I just thought for this group might be interested in all that information, because I actually thought, like, I'm not a very conflictive guy, but I'll be honest, like, you know, Homebrew and the project leader is someone that I've always kind of looked up to because I've known him for a very long time. So I just thought like this point of view was like settled like a few years ago. Like I thought we were past it.
It's still a soft spot. It's still a soft spot they're trying to fix. Yeah.
But anyway, sorry for torpedoing the meeting. But yes, that was the gossip for Homebrew, because I was pretty shocked when like one day out of the blue, they're trying to pick a fight with me because I'm involved in OpenSSF, and they felt that OpenSSF is strong-arming people into worrying about security, and that's not the way to do it. And this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But yeah. But what I was going to say, Adrian, maybe there should be an actual clarification though, because I do think there is something as far as developers and what is acceptable to developers. And I don't disagree with Homebrew's point that most people that use Homebrew are not developers. They're end users. So it's a difficult crux, because like in Homebrew, like it does exist, because I've been in long enough where I can tell you the end users just think that everything you carry is secure. And if it's not secure, then why you carry it? Like, what's up with that?
That's a very subtle difference here. When we wrote the S2C2F, it was entirely focused on the developer workflow. So like Linux package managers, that whole ecosystem, it doesn't, well, the words that we use to describe things doesn't always like work well when you think about it for Linux, because we were primarily thinking about things like NuGet packages, npm packages, PyPy, and
It'd be like trying to apply this to chocolatey in Windows.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's, you know, a couple things that you could maybe reuse for that scenario, but definitely not the whole thing.
But that is one of the things I said in my conversation, that maybe there is an opportunity there to clarify, because just for the clarification, Homebrew is Mac, but Mac is not that different from Linux. Basically, they share ancestors. So, like, but yeah, you are correct, and it is a big thing too, because like Debian will go to outstanding lengths because they feel like they need to modify packages for their users. So it's like, if you're using Debian, should I use the Debian package or should I use the developer package? You know, and then there's that whole thing and that whole scenario, because then do you use the software as the developer intended or as your distro intended?
Yeah.
And this actually creates something called the Debian problem, because Debian actually has a very bad reputation. So like Apache HTTPD is different on Debian than any other operating system because they modify it. And that's a whole thing, because like at Gentoo, we carry both versions. We carry the Debian version or we carry the non-Debianized version. However, it really depends on kind of what arguments, because Debian does a lot of things by default for the security of their users, because they feel like there's certain sane defaults they believe in. So that sometimes gets to be important because everyone uses Debian. Like most containers use Ubuntu, which is a derivative of Debian. So I'm just saying there is a section there that maybe at some point, I don't know if necessarily in the framework, but at some point, I do think you should clarify, or we should clarify as OpenSSF.
No.
Yeah, that this is for developers specifically, not for end users, and so maybe have like an out of scope section.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No.
Or maybe even say like for because here's the thing is that I do think end users is going to be more and more important. Because as more devices like the Steam Deck show up, I do think that like Flatpak and that sort of thing, I do think it has a lot of weight. But I think that like kind of have to get ahead of the problem, because you have two generations or two different things there that need to be addressed. Because even if a community like Flatpak were supposed to do this and they want to do an app store where you just hit install, it installs, then I do think that there should also be like a best practices for something like that, because you are kind of, not to be like that about it, but you are kind of putting yourself in the position of God at that point. So, you know, not to point fingers, but the Microsoft store has had issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we're working on it.
but like for example, like a very well-known issue on the Microsoft store that happens also on Flatpak is in any ecosystem is name squatting. What do you do with name squatting? Like how do you deal with that? Because Flatpak says anyone can make a Flatpak, but then you got developers on the other side that say no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the, so there are risk reduction requirements that we have in our framework that reduce the risk of accidental consumption of a type of squatted package. There's things that we do internal at Microsoft that I don't think we're ready to share yet, but I mean, those are things that we are actively working on.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the malware scanning, and depends on what type of malware scanning you do, but the type of malware scanning that looks for like, hey, why is this package gathering system profile information like OS type and language, mm-hmm. and sending that to a remote address, like that is sus and should not be allowed. That's usually typical behavior of like a type of squatted package, and so
and a lot of packages also do a lot of really strange things. Like we found that Discord basically has a keylogger, just has a keylogger. So yeah.
Jeez. I'm trying to find the requirements.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Like an ecosystem like Flatpak would essentially if you're trying to distribute software at that level, wouldn't you want to implement something like this framework? I mean, you'd have to because you're distributing software at like massive levels, like millions of devices at that point. Because it is crazy to think about. I'm just saying, like I've gone over this. This is something that I made it a point this year to stop ignoring them. So that's what I'm saying. It's a good idea. It has issues, but like, I don't know. I feel like it could be really, really good. And I feel that they took security seriously and it actually like worked, then it could be a huge thing, I think, because you'd have like secure sandboxed applications.
Yeah. So what you're bringing up is a very interesting point because I think we're looking at the big picture here. The S2C2F is all about like, what can you do as a consumer to try to protect yourself? But there's also things that package managers can do to try to protect its entire community of its entire customer base. If people are pulling software from them, there's an inherent level of trust that they place with that package manager. Like what is that package manager doing to kind of validate that they're not serving up malware? You know,
and let me, while we're here, let me just add a note. It is of the opinion of some very high up Linux developers that the whole reason that there is a security industry to begin with was because that circle of trust between package managers and users was violated by the JavaScript people. Like NPM, basically, like what happened in the NPM ecosystem was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And that proved that you can't trust anybody anymore. And that, like, yeah.
That's funny that they point the finger of blame. That cracks me up.
It specifically at that one incident where the guy like replaced all of his code with like, you know, I'm not going to do this anymore because like corporate, like overlords are evil. That guy. Yeah, it was that incident that they specifically point to, because they said that that was when like the circle of trust was broken by that guy. And we can never go back to things because of that guy.
Wow.
And you know that I'm involved in a lot of packaging ecosystems. So yeah, no BS. That is like, if you were to ask the packaging ecosystems, like, where did we like make that left turn? They'd point you right here. It was right here. This was the day and time when this guy did this. The circle of trust was broken.
Yeah.
It will never be repaired.
Yeah. So, you know, for what it's worth, Microsoft owns both NuGet and NPM, and we are making active investments to secure and validate the packages that get served up on both of those things.
Right.
So you know, we're doing what we can to try to improve the security of that whole ecosystem. But then there's still like the consumer that
look, I'm not gonna lie to you. Linux desktop is a joke. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, every year is the year of Linux desktop, and it never happens. So I get that distros are its own thing, but yeah, when you get to like WSL though, the people that are now using WSL at large, because everyone uses WSL.
Nice.
And the people that use like Macs, because everyone has a Mac now too. And you have homebrew. You see it in ideologies like the ones that I'm sharing with you start to get a little sketchy, because everyone installs everything on homebrew if you have a Mac. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Randall, it looks like there's a question for you in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. According to them, they don't have to worry about anything about security. Like, basically, they are excluded because, long story short, it is declared several times in our README, and I'm sure it's in our licensing as well, that homebrew cannot be taken as a security tool at all. The specific wording they use is that homebrew should be your last line of defense and should not be relied on. So they feel pretty confident in that they don't have to worry about anything security related.
Wow.
Thank you.
Now, in their defense, they have said this for a very long time, but I just don't think we're there anymore. Like, I think I would have thought that we've graduated. Like, as I said, if the circle of trust has been violated, then obviously policies have to change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
But
they will
that's
change whether they like it or
legitimately
not.
what they call it, the circle of trust. It was violated. It was broken.
It'll change whether they like it or not. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just for sure of that.
But I'm hoping to bring them around more. I'll be honest. I haven't. They're also kind of PO'd that I haven't been around as much as I used to. But like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going on at Homebrew because the creator of Homebrew has an entirely separate package manager now that he calls like Brew 2. That's like gonna pay people for like packages and stuff, and he feels that's how he's gonna fix open source. So
Wow.
I don't know.
Okay. That sounds like a similar, I think it's called like Tide Shift or something.
Yeah, he calls
Yeah.
his like T.xyz or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been getting a lot of stuff on Reddit and like a lot of attention because he plans on using a lot of cryptocurrency stuff, and they're like, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Well, okay, so thanks for sharing all of those strong rumors about like what's going on with Homebrew and everything. Does that impact, apologies if I'm not getting the connection here, but does that impact like how we can partner with the security knowledge framework?
No, not at all. They're not
Okay,
related.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Good.
In all honesty, that's kind of like my gig now. So like I can when we have a team as well, just so you know. So it's not like it's just me and Anthony, but
All right, sweet.
Yeah. So we're fully functional there. It was just, as they said, it was shocking, and Homebrew is important. I won't lie. Like I do think that I should bring them around and reparations should be made. But I do think that like I don't know. It's important stuff to talk about because we can't have this in the Linux community, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big, yeah.
And also, let me share this from you guys being Microsoft. I don't think anyone has a problem with Microsoft. Like even Linus has publicly stated that he doesn't have a problem if Microsoft takes over Linux. So I actually don't think Microsoft is an issue, except, yeah, did you guys hear what happened yesterday with GitHub and the hash changing?
Oh,
That
I didn't
was-
hear that.
I missed that.
So yesterday at like 2:00, we got this message that GitHub was changing the compression of their Git, like because Git now has an internal implementation of gzip, and that all the hashes on the Git archives were going to change, and they had to backtrack this like 2 hours later because it blew up.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, because I was like, oh no, dude, this is gonna screw everything up. We're gonna have to rewrite everything. And it's like, yeah. 2 hours later, they were like, we might have made a mistake. We're not gonna do this. But now you have 2 hours though. There's these 2 hours where a bunch of hashes are different for a bunch of packages. So if you anyone on the call, if your package manager fails, probably because of that.
Wow.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of fun stories with GitHub in this repo. We're viewing this in Markdown right now, but you can also view it in PDF.
Yep.
And I remember we went live, and on the day we went live, it rendered the PDF like all over the place. Like pages were swapped in wrong orders, and I had to like get a hold of them and tell them that like it's messed up, and and then they were like, oh, okay, we'll roll back this change, and like boom, it was fixed.
Yeah. But yeah, it was something that happened yesterday that they were like, we're gonna change to the internal implementation, and then yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
I think that this is all important for the framework. I mean, if you're gonna have an all-encompassing framework, what do you do when GitHub betrays you?
Well, we can look at our requirements here and ingest it right here. practice number one is ingest it. You should be storing a local copy of your packages in case the upstream goes down, right? So if GitHub's gone, if Azure's gone, if Docker Hub's gone, you as a
But how
developer.
do you do that, JFrog? Because the only place I know how to do that can do it legitimately is Gentoo.
Okay, but yeah, for like a developer, yes, like JFrog Artifactory is one such solution. We have Azure Artifacts, there's GitHub packages, there's, you know, AWS has their own thing, there's, you know, on and on and on. Every CI/CD kind of has their own like package caching solution.
But if we were gonna do it like full on, like bare metal, or like grassroots, should that ever be explained how to do it, like from like, you know what I mean?
So full on, when you say full on, what comes to my mind, and by the way, we're over on time. What comes to my mind is being able to clone the source to an internal location. So if you're an organization that's really concerned about business continuity and disaster recovery, if you have some really important projects that are dependent on these third-party dependencies, you might want to just clone their code locally so that you could take ownership of it in the event that you needed to.
Correct.
Yeah. And then if you did have a local copy, you could run your own security tools on it and start looking for backdoors and 0 days and that sort of thing. So
real quick, kind of we're over on time. So I know RPM and Portage, for example, do have functionality where, for example, you can take the RPM, modify it for your organization. For example, if your organization has patches that they need to use, they can put them in the RPM so that or basically it could patch it for you. Then you can build it and you can store that as a package and go from there.
That's cool.
Like that's how like the Linuxy way of doing it is. But yeah, I mean, you can get fancy with it. But as I was asking, like full on, like should we ever explain, like, if you had a small business and you just wanted to do this small, I mean, you could do it big too, because Red Hat supports this in huge infrastructures. But obviously, like, you know, if you don't trust the cloud or something, you can do it. There are ways of doing it manually, is what I'm trying to say.
Nice. Yeah, that's yeah, I almost feel like we might need to want to write like a flavor of this for Linux and maybe have that be in the end users working group or something.
I wouldn't mind doing that. I wouldn't mind assisting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But we could discuss it next time. I know we're over on time, or I'm on Slack, we could do it offsite. But anyway, yeah, sorry for, you know, I have lots of ideas in Linux because I'm an actual full-on community member.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for popping in. It was definitely interesting to hear all that. And yeah, those are all really important topics for us to keep working on. You know, we're here like one big team, you know, trying to make the industry.
One thing you have to realize, Adrian, just for the record, is that you have this other group, which is, I would say, the counterweight of OpenSSF, which is OpenBSD. And the reason why they're important is because most people, if you were going to argue, like, what is the most secure operating system? They tell you OpenBSD. And you see, OpenBSD's ideology is kind of be like a crusty old man about it. Like, if you don't need it, it doesn't get merged. If we have a tool that does it, then we don't need, like Docker, for example. So yeah, it's stuff like that. And I just think that should be also thought about, because I would say that they're the counterweight of all this, because they do have a very good ideology, which still keeps them relevant even 20 years after. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's very like old manny, like, yeah, we're not like, you don't need Docker because Docker's just CH root. So like Docker is just for people that like don't want to learn CH root. So solution, learn CH root. We're not merging Docker, which, as I said, from like a security perspective, it's very like the less you have, the smaller your attack vector. So I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out because a lot of people, especially in the Linux community, kind of treat BSD like royalty because of that ideology they have.
Okay.
The
Of
hard
you-
thing is that
Yeah.
you cannot, like, you're confined to a smaller group when you do that, because then you don't have the user experience and the developer experience that most users are comfortable with. So
Correct.
that's the hard part. Like, how do you get that adopted by like more people? And
Correct.
yeah, I guess that's the main.
Yeah, no one disputes that it's like bulletproof. It's just nobody uses it because people want to actually do stuff with their computers. Not like come on with everything off by default. You want to turn it on? Command line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good ideology, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's very difficult, and that's why people don't use it.
Yeah.
But is it theoretically, if we were going to use a textbook, all right, is it textbook secure? Yeah, it is. Now, is it usable? Big debate.
Yeah. All right. I definitely have to drop off now. I got meetings starting that I'm late to.
No
But
worries.
this was awesome. Thanks, Randall. Thanks, Alexander. Thanks, Russity. Great meeting you all and talking.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good
Bye.
one. Bye.
Guys.
Yeah.